Whether you are thinking about becoming a restaurateur or you are already in the business, Michael Pollan has written a must-read, the Food and Beverage Magazine's Guide to Restaurant Success. Pick up your copy today at Barnes & Noble, Amazon, Books A Million, or wherever fine books are sold.
Food and Beverage Magazine Live, bringing food and beverage to life, with your hosts, James Beard Award winner Jennifer English and Food and Beverage Magazine publisher Michael Pollan, featuring leaders in the hospitality, branded food and beverage, and CPG industries, many of whom are Jennifer and Michael's friends in the business, for an informal and informative conversation where friends in the business share the latest intel, ideas, and best practices. Live, juicy inside scoop from the tastemakers, newsmakers, bread bakers, drink shakers, spoon lickers, clam diggers, farms, foodies, and friends of the food and beverage magazine world. Here are your hosts, Jennifer English and Michael Pollan.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Food and Beverage Magazine Live. I have to tell you, if you see a little bit more of a giddy exuberance in me, it's because we have a Hall of Famer, a rock star, an Olympian. Pick the pinnacle of any achievement, of any endeavor. And today we're going to talk to one of the people who gets me the most inspired. We're going to talk to Pitmaster Ed Mitchell. He's one of the world's leading experts on Carolina barbecue, but on the great tradition of barbecue and being a pitmaster. The word master is not misplaced when it's used in the context of Ed Mitchell's art. I love to remind everybody that the fine arts, with the capital F, includes the culinary arts, the pitmaster's arts, because we're distinctive in our hospitality industry because every single one of the edible fine arts are the only ones which use all five of your senses. You can't say that about dancing or painting or sculpture or any of the other fine arts. Ours is the only realm of fine arts that use all five of our senses. And there is no dimension of the culinary and hospitality arts that really inspire and arouse our senses the way the pitmaster does. And in that sense, well, we're going to Edible Mount Olympus today to speak with Pitmaster Ed Mitchell. What an honor it is for this fangirl to get a chance to say hello and welcome you to our table. Hello, and how are you?
Hello, 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 and thank you so much for that great introduction. You rub it on pretty thick, so I appreciate that.
Hopefully, like the work that you do, it's balanced and just right. Tell everybody, Ryan and Ed, about your world and take us in to the beauty of the Carolina smoky and edible arts that is your dominion.
Well, listen, we are father and son team here, Ed and Ryan Mitchell. Our legacy in the barbecue world dates back over 150 years, from my great-grandfather to my grandfather to my father, and now to myself, trying to be the torchbearer here for the next generation. The Carolinas is unique to the barbecue world because our claim to fame is the whole hog barbecue, whole hog chop barbecue. Whole hog is kind of the centerpiece of the barbecue world because it gives you, all the flavor profiles of the animal. Eastern North Carolina, vinegar based. We always say, we like to say here in the Carolinas, barbecue is a noun. It's not an adjective. Most people think it's an act of cooking, but barbecue for us is a dish. It's a lifestyle. You can ride around any neighborhood here in Wilson, North Carolina, Eastern North Carolina. You'll see a barrel smoker sitting outside of somebody's yard, the same way you would see a vehicle. So it's a lifestyle. We take a lot of pride in, just being able to share this little small piece of the county here with the rest of the world. It's been an amazing, 30 years here, and being able to do so commercially. So,
can I ask a question? Because I am, and I will apologize 100 ways from Sunday.
Sure.
I'm a Yankee. I'm originally from Boston.
Sure.
We know what we do well. We do seafood well. We do lobster roll well. We do beans really well. But I don't know that any place can come close to what you do. So I didn't grow up with this tradition.
Mm-hmm.
Help us understand, because I wish to give you the respect. Are you referred to as chef, or is there a specific term that's used for pitmasters that is the term of respect that one uses in a sort of dining kitchen where you'd say chef, yes chef, yes chef? What is the term that's used in barbecue?
Well, that is called us pitmasters.
Okay.
Yeah, it's no special.
It's very special as far as I'm concerned. Let's talk a little bit about
we ordained. We like to say we ordained the commercial use of pitmaster way back in from 1999 to 2001. We started referring ourselves as pitmasters. Just to give you a little historical context, the origin of cooking whole hog in the Carolinas, the ugly past of it is that it is an evolution from food preparation from the plantations.
Right.
And so those are skill sets, and those are, that was a lifestyle that was honed, by our ancestors. And in the very beginning, the reference was pit boys. That was the usage of the oldest male slave that was doing, the barbecuing on the plantations. And as the craft began to gain a high level of respect as barbecue in general in the Carolinas began to grow into a much more commercialized platform, my father started calling himself the Pitmaster, Ed Mitchell, way back in 1991, and it kind of we took off from there with the usage of the word. And Antonio Bourdain came in on season 2 of Cook's Tour, and once he anointed him as a pit master and a craft that should be highly spoken of, the rest of the world then began to use the word pit master in place, and that was the function. So
well, and I gotta say, and if you haven't seen it, go on YouTube, watch it. It is one of the 10 best episodes Chef Bourdain ever did. Let's talk a little bit about how much of the magic, the secret sauce, if you will, that makes Carolina barbecue more than any other really something special in the entire nation's scope of barbecue, and how what you all are, I want to say it's the legacy of what you're doing that really makes a lot of people pay attention in the most reverential kinds of ways. But it's a very important articulation of our food nation's roots in a culinary tradition. There are few things that we have anywhere in North America that are as revered, as expert, as driven by some of the most essential aspects of cuisine, which are time, temperature, and technique. You can take this and go anywhere in the world and hold our culinary, our national culinary own against any cuisine culture anywhere on the planet. Given that extraordinary legacy, and then coming back to America, would you talk a little bit about what makes Carolina barbecue tradition so incredibly important?
Well, one of the things I think that makes it so important is the fact that we start off with the animal itself, the hog or the pig, whichever one you prefer, and learning the skill sets of being able to roast them over hot coals and wood cinders.
Yeah.
with a smoky flavor.
Yeah.
To be able to learn the craft of how to place your coals in the right position on the animal as he cooks, so that all the parts will get done at the same time, because they're different thickness of the animal, and the shoulders are thick, and then the hams parts is thick. So you have to be able to temper those areas just right, so that the middle part where the ribs are, where the bacon is, you don't overly cook that. You don't dry that out.
Wow.
So that's one of the things I think that really makes it so unique. And then last but not least is that you have an opportunity then to what I call a mop sauce. If you choose to, you just take a variety of different spices and vinegar and kind of blend it together and cook it into the meat as it cooks, or you can just wait until you finish. Excuse me, and then blend it all together. Then once you harvest it and chop it up, but the skill set, the craft itself, the smoking part, I think makes it so unique. Is that back in the day when I was coming up, they cured tobacco with hardwood. In our area, it was oak,
Oh,
and
wow.
so we used the oak wood to also cook the barbecue. So at night when we fire the bars of tobacco bars up, we also would be cooking a hog for the next day
Right.
for the workers to enjoy and as they work and as they harvest the tobacco, and so it became a tradition as to who could cook the best pig without burning it, and who could make the best sauce. And so everybody began to mostly experiment with, as I said before, with hot peppers and vinegar and different spices and everything that really has a tremendous aroma as it began to drip the on the cylinders as it was cooking, and that sort of made your mouth just water just smelling it and doing it at the same time. So the technique itself, I think, makes the Carolinas so unique, and the fact that we use the whole animal to give you a full flavor profile of all the parts of the animal, because each part has a different flavor profile. You have your shoulders, and you have your bacon, you have your tenderloins, and things of that nature, and it's just good.
You
Oh,
also have,
there it is. There it is.
that's
Oh,
good. You also have to understand, also, Jennifer, the agricultural significance. Like, you really can't talk about whole hog or the Carolinas without first
right.
paying homage to the farms and the farmers. So the animal itself, we have an affinity for, the whole hog, because quite honestly, that was the animal used to feed the largest numbers of people. It was a survival animal. Okay, so you can't feed 500 people, and with cuts of chicken or
Right.
or you know what I mean. So the hog itself played a huge agricultural survival role
Yeah.
to North Carolinians as well. It was a protein that was able to be used to feed large, large groups of people, which, from farm life, the transition from farm life to, to country living, to plantation living, on up to where we are right now. And then you get into having, like, understanding the ingredient profile. We gave the world a reason to have an affinity for vinegar, right? So vinegar is the key ingredient in making the Eastern North Carolina sauce.
And I
Now,
want to show that, because we've actually got a bottle
yes,
of True Made Foods East Carolina, and Ed, your picture is right on the front of this bottle. I have to say, this is a very, very fine product, and you claim on the back that the secret ingredient is authenticity. I'm going to ask. It has to be legacy, tradition, and a little bit of love. But I want to talk about the sauce, but I want to go back before we ship away from this to the animal. You all are advocates for the heritage breeds that are really rooted in the traditions in Carolina. And in a time when we are getting further, it seems, and further away from the sort of real that we started with. In this case, I'm going to use the word true, as in true made, the true Carolina heritage breeds. We've really got a stewardship and important care that we need to bring to sustain these breeds, to sustain these traditions. You cannot maintain a Carolina barbecue tradition without the whole hog, and it can't just be any hog. I would imagine you can make my shoe taste delicious, but that's not what we're talking about. We are, and I know this makes everything taste good. But I want to talk about how important it is, because you spend a lot of time in the sustainability field relative to the awareness, the introduction of, and then the preservation of this tradition of breeds that are Carolina native breeds, heritage breeds.
Yeah, that's true. And the fact that the animal has a natural way of life and he's not stressed. And I have to be very careful when I say things like this, because I'm not putting down any operational process. I'm just speaking from a strategically cook, pitmaster, chef, whatever you want to refer me to, trying to get the best product that I can get to prepare for the people that I'm doing it for. And I found out that whenever we get animals that was raised in a natural environment, and they had a natural way of lifestyle, they had a natural way of breeding. In other words, they weren't artificially inseminated. I mean, the bull and the sow sort of chose each other. I mean, it sounds sort of comical, but it's the fact that if everything was in a natural setting, then the outcome would be very, very nice. I mean, the product comes out very nice. No stress levels, and you're able to, when you cook that, you're able to tell the difference in the flavor itself of the animal.
I'm nodding in agreement, like I'm familiar with what you're saying is true, and I don't know that I've had that luxury of that experience, but I'm nodding because, of course, that makes perfect sense. I'm wondering, Chef, would you be good enough if we were to put the image of the finished whole hog up again? Could you talk us through from nose to tail about what you were talking about before, about where the thickness on the shoulders and in the hams, where you really have to bring all your art and science and skill and mastery to the act of preparation, so that you're understanding. Tony, can we put that image of that whole hog back up? Chef, would you talk us through what we're looking at here?
Well, you're looking at an animal that's been split, and we call that particular cut a butterfly split. And the reason for that is that we want to start off cooking this animal with the skin up or the meat down toward the flames. If you notice from the rear, those are the hams, and they're very thick.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to adjust your flames or adjust your cinders or your coal in an area, whereas that heat is a little more intense than it would be if you come to the middle of the animal where the bacon is and where the ribs are, which is much thinner. And as you go up toward the shoulder part is very thick, almost similar to the hams. So you have to be able to position your coals in a way that you put enough, just right, not too many, around the shoulder part, so that part will get good and intensify the heat, and then less as it comes down back toward the hams, because it's not as thick. It's where the tenderloins are. You don't want to dry them out.
Right.
So you have to be able to perfect that. Once you are able to perfect that, okay, then you probably end up with a very decent outcome. because you have positioned yourself and you have put the right temperature in the right spots that should give you a very good productive, very good outcome.
Tony, can we put that back up? I have a couple of questions I wanted to ask Chef about this. What's extraordinary to me is in looking at this, I know that the great deal of seasoning and flavor have been used in this process. And yet most people, when they think of barbecue sauce, they think of something that has like a very coating kind of effect. This looks like just a beautiful smoked and roasted animal.
Exactly.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit about the fact that this got some seasoning, but it looks like really beautifully just, I can't really even tell if it's roasted or smoked. And I want to understand how this could be so gorgeous. And it's really interesting to me to look at those charred bits as though they got a little extra something. I can clearly see the grate marks on the hams. And as you go up through the ribs and you can see some pooling of some liquid, I can almost see that mimicking the look of this Carolina sauce that I have in the bottle here. Can you talk a little bit about this? Is this roasted or is it smoked or a little bit of both?
It's a little bit of both. And once we take it up, and what you see here is we like to take the sauce then and just kind of pop up one of the ribs cages. And sort of begin pouring your sauce down the middle, and it sits there, and then it begins to simmer right into the meat. And that's what you see when you see those little pools of look like vinegar-based sauce, and that's what that is.
That's why it's so important also to get the heritage breed animals. They come out. We don't pre-season any of our hogs before we cook them. We cook them in its natural setting, natural state. So we don't start the seasoning process until afterwards. And then and sometimes about halfway through we'll get a little bit of the vinegar-based sauce there, and we'll start the coating. Once we flip them over, and we'll let them roast for another hour with the skin side down, and let the sauce simmer for the finishing product. But in most of the settings, we're going to take that animal and we're going to debone him, and we're going to begin the process of chopped whole hog barbecue from that state. And so we like it to be unseasoned until we get to the point of chopping them up. And then we start to work on the seasoning profile.
Jeff, I've got to ask you one more question about that beautiful whole animal that's in front of us here. When you are the pitmaster, like the cook in any kitchen anywhere in the world, one of the happy dividends is you get to take that little taste of that secret bite. That's the best bite of the whole thing. The oyster and the roast turkey on Thanksgiving. What's the secret bite on a whole hog when you're looking at it like this? That's usually saved for the pitmaster. Is there a pitmaster's nibble, right?
That's a good one. I normally like to nibble around the rib and the tenderloin part. I like to get that. The little bit of that fat, and
that cut right there at the bottom of the leg, where you can get a little piece of this the pork crackling, as well as tear open some of the meat on the inside, the tender area from the inside. That's usually the go-to move. Anytime you can combo the pork crackling pull with the meat, that's the move.
That is choice. That sounds delicious. I've got to come back to the sauce that our friends at True Made Foods have sent to us. There are actually two kinds of Carolina Gold and East Carolina. Let's leave this up for a second. There's three kinds of sauce: Kansas City and Central Texas. Ed, your picture's on both of these, but I've got to ask you, what is the secret to all great barbecue sauce, no matter what region it's coming from? Because those you can just look at and see the visual difference. One's gold, one's East Carolina vinegar based, much less thick, much more vinegary and liquidy. What do all great barbecue sauces have in common?
Well, I like to say that you kind of pick and choose from the area from whence you're from where you're from. If you're from South Carolina, you know people like a little mustard in theirs, and so you have to kind of be able to blend your basic spices, which mostly all of them have, which is the vinegar, the spices, the different type of spices that you like, paprika, and different salt and pepper and things of that nature. And then, of course, you sort of figure out, well, there's a special kind of taste that lights up the taste buds in certain areas. And in South Carolina, they like a little mustard flavored taste. And so you have to then blend a little of that in there to kind of give it that taste. And so you just move from there. There you go.
Now,
Yeah.
I want to show the audience, but when you go to the grocery store, I want you to find these, and I want you to see the difference. Almost every other brand of sauce is going to look pretty much the same. They're just going to have a different label. But this is a big, thick Kansas City, thick, going to have a little bit of sweetness to it, maybe a little bit of tanginess to it. They all have the traditional, true made version of less sugar. It's got a big, giant 100% flavor. And then we come over to the Carolina version, and you can see it's just, I mean, that's probably as liquefied as anything you'd want to sip. I mean,
People get that one confused with salad dressing a lot. So we like to inform them that the vinegar is also a barbecue sauce.
yes, absolutely. And I want to just make sure that we talk about this because, again, and it's not just Carolina. This Carolina Gold, it's a little bit less thick, but it's still very thick. It's this true East Carolina that makes me feel like, Ed, if I were coming to your house, which one of these would you make for me? I'm kind of wondering, is it this East Carolina? Is this the one that's the one that you're picking for me?
Yeah, I would have to go with that because that's my heart. I mean, that's what I was bred and raised on, that Easter style. So I can't deny that. Now the other ones, I sort of we used a little bit of my palate based upon the general areas that I went and explored the taste and sort of try to blend some of my sauce to make some of their sauce with some of the special types of flavors that I thought that they would like. Like I said, in Carolinas, it's sort of gold, it's sort of mustard based, in the central part, Kansas City's part, it's a little sweetness, a little tomato based type. So I try to blend, but I would have to start with my vinegar base first, and I couldn't. If you came to my home now, I would have to spread that out for you first.
Chef, I didn't mean to invite myself over to your house.
That's fine, darling. That's fine. It's come right all over.
No, listen, before we let you go, and you've been extraordinarily generous with your time and in creating these, you've probably been asked over the years by 100 people to make it possible for me to come up with something that's in the tradition of what you do in your home and in your state. And you've got this product out with True Made Foods, and there's a reason why this really was the right way to do this. Could you talk a little bit about how, given how much opportunity you probably had over the last 20 years, especially, why this was such an important project for you to say yes to?
Well, early on in the early part of my life and careers, we made the sauce in the early days with my grandfather and them. They used a lot of sugar, and the reason for that is that we had a lot of sugar.
Yeah.
And the reason we had a lot of sugar is because not only did we make barbecue sauce, but we made moonshine, and you have to have plenty of sugar. So we sort of had a little overly, I say, use of sugar in the vinegar base in the earlier days, and of course a little more sweetness than I probably would recommend based on the sugar. But as time went on, we didn't realize that the sugar has obviously an effect on your health, and so I began to come into what I call a borderline diabetic. And so whenever I had an opportunity to get involved with a project that took away most of the sugar, if not all of the sugar, but left me with the basic flavor and the taste of my barbecue sauce, I just jumped right on that idea because they supplemented with butter squash and things of that nature, healthier vegetables and stuff to help to maintain the sweetness, but yet dilute and take away most of the sugar. And when that opportunity came about, I had to jump on that because I wanted to give the people still a good flavor of barbecue sauce, but I wanted to have a reduction in the amount of intake of sugar that I gave because I was concerned about their health as I had began to get serious about mine.
I am so right with you. I want to just read these ingredients. Apple cider vinegar, butternut squash, carrot, salt, black pepper, red pepper, garlic powder, onion powder, paprika, sage, and turmeric. And that's it.
That's it.
I defy you to go to any store, anywhere, any restaurant, anywhere, and find anything cleaner and truly more irresistible. And that's the word I really want to leave this next section of our conversation off with. Irresistible speaks for itself. And whatever you make, whatever you do in the world, if it's not irresistible, as far as I'm concerned, you have to keep working at it. Sir, you have really gotten to the hardest thing there is to achieve in food, and that is irresistible. And the only other thing that's even harder than that is to maintain it, which you have. Irresistible is the cornerstone of hospitality. And when I was talking to Mrs. Leah Chase, and she would describe, well, when you come to my house, this is how we make this food. It's right. Something I say almost every day to people that are in our business. Because when people come to our house and sit at our table, like you've been gracious enough to come and do today with us, then it is my role to make sure that you know how honored I am that you're here, and how do I delight you when you are at my table, and how do I welcome you and let you know that I see you and this matters having you here, and I want you to be as delighted as possible. That is the essence of hospitality. And once we get there, then we can cultivate as we pick and chew and laugh and sing and sip. We can make conviviality. You can't do any one of these things without first starting with the intention of hospitality rooted in the irresistible. You have now generously given us, thanks to our friends at True Made Food, this irresistible way that we begin this season. You had mentioned hams and Easter time. There's a full array, but I just wanted to use all of these words to say thank you to you and to have you talk a little bit about how important food is in the tradition of hospitality in your world.
Absolutely. I mean, for us, you know, we give people a piece of our lives. You know what I mean? The most humbling thing you can do for family, friends, and people that you care about, as well as our customers, is to provide them with the meal that you put your heart and soul into. That's the essence for us of hospitality. It really, you know, if you ask my grandmother what the secret ingredient is to anything, she's going to say love. You know, she won't tell you much about the spices or the flavor of this. She's going to say you're just going to be able to taste the love in it. And that goes all the way back to, you know, from our childhood to the cultural narrative around North Carolina in general. You know, hospitality and sharing our food and our culture with the rest of the world has always been the most important part of barbecue. That's what barbecue really is. You know, it's not always fun outside standing around those pits on a hot summer day, and it's 300 degrees inside of that smoker, and it's probably 90 degrees outside, or almost 100 degrees in those smokehouses. Right. And so those pitmasters who give the world and give their families, you know, even the backyard heroes who are giving their families that effort and, you know, of food, that effort and providing something delicious. Those are the people that we always like to champion. And, you know, that's what it means to us. And that's why we really do what we do.
Chef Ed Mitchell, is there any greater moment in life than watching someone put the first bite of your barbecue in their mouth, knowing what the reaction is that's coming?
I'll tell you, you just pull my heartstring right there because that's what drives my passion. You know, I really love seeing the expressions on people's face when I can almost, when I say almost, because of the difference in the way things are done now as it were back then. The flavor or the taste or the experience, I should say, of tasting something that's so good that you just, it just takes you to another level. And when I have perfected that to that point that I think I'm just about where it used to be in the very, very old days, and when I see a person experience that, it gives me joy. I love it. And that's why, going back to the reason why I sort of altered the original flavor of the barbecue sauce as it relates to the reduction in the sugar is because I want to still get that flavor, but I want to make sure that you are healthy and that you enjoy what you are eating. And that doesn't give me any more pleasure because nothing else that can give me any more pleasure than seeing you sit there. That's right. And shake your head and say, "Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah." When I see you doing that, I know I've done my job.
Well, if you want an authentic, irresistible food swoon, I'm going to tell you, try this True Made. Chef Ed Mitchell, Ryan Mitchell, I cannot tell you what an honor it is to have had this time with you. I know I fangirled a little bit more than usual, but please forgive me. I am in absolute hog heaven today. You don't know how much you have just touched my heart and delighted me. It's truly my honor to welcome you to this table and to be able to say thank you for this incredible gift and for all this time. You've been very generous. And I look forward to, I don't know what the phrase is, but I would say clinking glasses, but I think I'd rather, sit elbow to elbow with you at a good old fashioned pick. And anytime you need an extra set of hands or need someone to come stage, I'll be there in a heartbeat. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's been an honor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Whether you are thinking about becoming a restaurateur or you are already in the business, Michael Pollan has written a must-read, The Food and Beverage Magazine's Guide to Restaurant Success. Pick up your copy today at Barnes & Noble, Amazon, Books A Million, or wherever fine books are sold.
Food and Beverage Magazine Live, bringing food